so now we're going to get into the most difficult section of factoring polynomials. But we're going to start off with actually a pretty easy technique. It's called factoring by grouping. So let me give you the basis of this. And actually, I'm going to change this. Hold on one second. There we go. So I changed it from ax plus 7x to a blah plus 7 blah, whatever that thingy is. It's actually a time symbol, but you get the general idea. All right, so what I wanted to show you was, look, you don't need to know what the thing is, right? It would still work if it was, no matter what it is, right? Because all you do is take that symbol out, whatever that is, and then you'd write, I've got an a plus a 7 left. Seems pretty straightforward, right? All right, so then what about if it's the second problem? So you'd say, okay, I've got a times something plus 7 times that same something, right? So if that's the case, then can't we take the something out and write, well, a factored thing? So let me write this down. So we'd say equals, all right, now what do they both have in common? B plus 4, right? So if you do that, then what's left in that first term is, and here, let me underline the terms, maybe that'll help. So this one is the first term, and this back one is the second term, so it gets 2 lines, see? So left in the first one is a plus 7. So write 7. This b plus 4 was common to both of them, so it got factored out, and it left with b plus 4 times a plus 7. Right? It's the exact same problem as what we did up above. Do you see it? It's just that the blah thing, whatever that was, turned into, here, hold on, sorry, I gotta make this smaller. This starry thingy right there turned into b plus 4. But other than that, they are identical problems. Okay, so now let's expand on an idea here. I'm going to look at these first 2 terms together. Okay? So you want to look at those two and kind of put them together. One might say group them, get it? Factoring by grouping, grouping them. I just have to find the thing I'm looking for. Hold on. There it is. So I'm going to say this is group 1, so those are grouped together. And then I'm going to group these 2 together as well, right there. Okay. All right, so then let's just look at the first 2 with that curly braces thing. What could come out of there? Well, they both have an a. So you could say, okay, a times b plus 4, that's the first one. That's the curly braces one. Now put a big plus in there because you've got a plus. And then you'd say, okay, well, actually not because of that, but just put a big plus there. And then you'd say 7 comes out of the last one, and so you're left with b plus 4. And then you say, whoa, wait a second. That means that I'm at the same problem that I was before. They both have b plus 4 in common, so I could factor out the b plus 4. Sorry, plus 4. And that leaves me a plus 7. All right, so you see what I did there? See? I'm going to take that idea, I'm going to apply it to these problems that have 4 terms in them. And that's how actually you can spot these ones from a mile away. See it? Look right there. For a polynomial with 4 terms, see it? We factor by grouping. So whenever you spot one in your worksheets that has 4 terms, it's going to be very obvious, or in your test or whatever. It'll be 4 terms, that must be factoring by grouping. I just wanted to show you in a later section we do a review. Oh, there it is. And there isn't one in there. So, which doesn't mean that factoring by grouping isn't important. You're going to see it's going to actually help you with some of these, but we'll see that later. Okay. So factoring by grouping, you can spot from a mile away. It's got 4 terms in it. All right, so let's look at these first ones right here. So I have 2x squared plus 6x, 2x cubed plus 6x squared minus 5x minus 15. All right, well, I'm going to group together the first 2 terms in my mind and make it, that was plus 6x squared minus 5x minus 15. Okay, so this is equal to, now I'm going to group together, oopsie, the first 2. So those first 2 terms, let me curly brace in them. What do they have in common? Well, they both have a 2, because 2 goes into 2, 2 goes into 6, and they have an x squared. Now if I take that out, I'm left with x plus 3. All right, so there's the curly braces term right there. I'll curly brace that as well, just so you can keep it straight. Now for the back ones, you could take out a 5, but that would leave both of these negative, and we want them positive. So I'm going to factor out a minus 5. So I'm going to write minus 5, parentheses, x plus 3. See how that works? Right? So if that's x plus 3, then there's this one. Oops, I better bracket that so you guys can see it. Okay, so this one and came out of these two terms right here. Okay? All right, so now what's going to happen? Well, if you look at the curly brace thing and the bracket thing, they have something in common. They both have an x plus 3 in them. See right there and right there? So we can factor out an x plus 3. Now in the first term, if I take out the x plus 3, I'm left with 2x squared minus 5 for that back term. All right, and then we're done. You would keep going if you could, but you can't. So you're done. One thing before we leave this one behind, I just want you to notice that the parentheses worked out to be like the same. See how they both have x plus 3 in them? If they do not work out to be the same, that's a sign that you did something wrong. They need to work out to be the same. All right, so now let's look at the next one. We got 2ax squared minus 3bx squared minus 4ay plus 6by. So group together the first two with this little curly braces I did it, or you could do it with highlighters. That's generally how I do it if I'm working on paper. And you want to think, okay, they don't have 2 in common, they don't have 3 in common, they don't have a in common or b in common, but they do have x squared. I'm going to take an x squared out. That leaves me 2a minus 3b. Okay, now for the back two, they both have a y. I could take a y out, right? But if you do positive y, then that'll leave you negative 2a plus 3b. But that's not what we want. We want positive 2a minus 3b. We need the parentheses to be the same. So instead of doing a plus y, I'm going to take out a minus. If I take out a minus, that turns the first thing, right, because minus 4 divided by, oops, I got to do more than that. I got to do a 2, sorry, because 2 goes into 2 goes into 4, 2 goes into 6. So if I do minus 2, now multiply and see if you get back. Minus 2 times positive 2 makes minus 4. You have an a and you got a y. And then minus 2 times minus 3 makes positive 6. See it there? And then by. Now the parentheses are identical. They're both 2a minus 3b. So equals, oops, okay. Then I can say, okay, 2a minus 3b comes out. That leaves me x squared minus 2y. And we're going to stop right there. Now, normally you would keep going if you could and make another double parentheses for these. But unfortunately, well, actually, fortunately for you, this doesn't go any further. That second parentheses does not factor any farther. All right, so we're done with learning factoring by grouping. Fabulous, wonderful. All right, so let's try the next page, which is factoring by trial and error. Now, I'm going to show you this at length, but this is not something that actually I expect most of you to do. This is probably not my preferred method, especially for students in Math 131, just because you really have to have a really strong number sense to be able to do this. So what it is you literally just try different things until you figure it out. Now, you would never do this for when it's just plain x squared. So when it's plain x squared, we did those back in the previous section. They actually weren't even that hard. I mean, we went to all this trouble with showing this table and all that, but I would bet almost all of you didn't really need the table. You could have figured this out, right? You need multiply to the last number, add up to the middle number. But when a is not 1, like a is 15, a is 2, a is 3, then that makes your life much, much more difficult. Okay, so we need to figure out a way to do this. So let me start. I got to put in an equation. Hold on. There it is. Okay, so now when we set this up, we could set it up as this is 15x squared plus 26x, oopsie, plus 8. Come back. I hate that it does that. All right, so you think, okay, well, it could be 1 and 15. So it could be 1x and 15x, and then you have to try different numbers, like try 8 here and 1 here. Now you FOIL it and see if it would get what you want. So outers would be 1x, inners would be 8 times 15, which is 120. Okay, that doesn't make 26. So that's out. So then you go back and you try a different one. Say, okay, how about if I put 4 here and 2 here? Well, that'll give me 62 for my outers plus inners, because 4 times 15 is 60, 2 times 1 is 2. Okay, that's no good. What about 2 and 4 over here? That'll give me 30 for the middles, and outers is 4. That gives me 34. Well, that's closer, but that's not quite it. And there's no other way to make 8. Oh, I think I didn't try 1 here and 8 here, so I better try that. So that would give me 15 for that middle one, and then 8 times 1 is 8. So 15 plus 8 is 23. That's not 26. So I need that middle term to be 26. You need your outers plus inners to make 26. Okay, so none of this is going to work. So I've tried all the combos. So now let me try 3 here and 5 here. All right, let me try 8 and 1. 8 times 3 is 24. 1 times 5 is 5. 24 plus 5 would be 29 for the middle term. Okay, so what if I put 4 here and 2 here? All right, so outers would be 3 times 4, which is 12. Inners would be 2 times 5, which is 10. Okay, that's no good. Let's try 4 here and 2 here. So let's see, that would be, lasts would be 8, right? Outers would be 6, because 3 times 2 is 6. Inners would be 20. There it is, right? So this is, let me write it out. So it'd be 15x squared, there's your firsts, plus 6x, plus 20x, plus 8. So this is your firsts, if you're foiling it, right? There's your firsts. There's your outers. Here's your inners. Oops, I've been doing curly braces. Inners. And this is your lasts. Right? All right, so this works. And what you're doing is you're trying different combos out, and you keep checking them with distributing, with the foil, right, is what I've been using. But I mean, it's distributing. You're multiplying and seeing if it works. And if it works, then great, and you found it. And if it doesn't work, then you scratch it off and you go to the next thing, right? And you can hopefully see how fraught with peril this is for you, right? As a student, you never know, like, oh, did I get every combo? Did I try everything out? You know, etc. So let me try this one. Now the good news is you know it's got to be plus and plus. Those makes things easier. And also luckily for you, 2 is prime. So we know this is going to be 2x and x. That's actually a simpler problem. So now you've got to make 15. So it could be 1 here, 15 here. Or it could be 15 here, 1 over here. Or it could be, let's see, 5 here and 3 here. Or it could be 3 here and 5 here. This is pretty much as small as we can make them. Everything's positive, and 15, you only make that a couple ways, and 2x is prime. So now you check it with outers plus inners, right? Honestly, you could check the first, but you know the first are all going to make 2x squared, right? So that's not a big deal. So what matters is your outers plus inners. So here, I'll do 2x squared. Okay, plus outers is 30x plus inners is 1x plus 15. Okay, so what you're really checking is this first part. That makes 31 for that middle term. We do not want 31. So this one is out. Not going to work. Now you try the next one. It's 2x squared for the front and 15 for the back. The middle, the outers is 2x. The inners is 15x. That makes 17 for my middle. But I want 13. Okay, so this is out. Not going to work. Okay? Now what about this one? Same thing. 2x squared, but now it's plus 6x for the outers, because 2 times 3 is 6, plus 5x for the middle. That makes 15, or excuse me, that makes 11. 11 is not what we want, so you cross it off. And you move on to the next one. So let's see, it's 2x squared plus 10x. That's your outers, plus 3x is your middle. That makes 13. There it is.